Welcome to this week's episode of the Business of Real Estate podcast with Lynn Hoffmann and Eric Johnson. Today we're talking about exceeding clients' expectations, but more specifically, exceeding those expectations when it comes to their move. Having gone through some moves recently, Lynn and I have experienced the stresses of what it's like for clients when they do go through the move. And so it's important that you as a realtor step up your game. And so today we're going to be giving you some tips and talking about different strategies to help scale your business by addressing these needs. This week on the Business of Real Estate podcast. Welcome back, everybody. This week we are talking about the stresses of moves. And I know I literally, at the filming, as we're filming this, I just moved into a new place. Still not quite there. I was lucky I was able to find some clothes to put on today. But there are a lot of stresses that go along with moves. And Lynn, you're the queen of moves because you've moved a lot. You've moved and bought a lot of houses in the last, 5-6 years?
20 years I've been there.
Yeah.
20 years, 23 houses.
Wow. 20 years, 23 houses. So you're familiar with moving.
Oh, yeah.
You've got it down to a science.
Well, sometimes.
Yeah. But there are things that we can't account for, right?
Yes.
And I think that's, to me, when somebody comes in as a new agent and they're looking to develop their business, everybody talks about the marketing. Everybody talks about, hey, having a listing presentation. That's all well and good. But the meat and potatoes comes with how we deal with the clients. So once we do land them, and now we help them find a place, there's a lot that comes between signing on the dotted line and actually getting your stuff in the house and getting it unpacked and being ready. It's a stressful time for those people, right?
Absolutely.
And so we know that when it comes to marketing and how do you get your message across? Well, if we want to get through the noise, I always say you got to talk about needs, wants, and how to solve their problems. Right. And there are a lot of problems that can come up in a move.
Yes.
And so let's talk about some of those. I know one of my worst horror stories that I heard was an agent that I knew very well, who had a client that she got the call and said the buyers showed up and her sellers had not even started packing on the day of the move.
Yeah, not unheard of.
And where she had to rent a truck, get some family and friends. They just threw everything in the truck. Let's go. You got to be out. Yeah. So what are some of the things you've heard, the horror stories? And what are some ways that agents can think about or look at implementing into their business to help their clients overcome that stress?
Yeah, there's a lot. But I think the first thing that you have to have is a lot more empathy for the person that's doing the move, the person that's moving out of their home. I'll talk about that part a little bit more because that's where your empathy as a real estate agent can really help them through the process. Some people are very, very attached to everything in their home. It depends how long they've been living in their home. If it's truly a family home and they've been there for years, that can present a whole lot of problems. And while it's easy for someone like me to say, oh yeah, just throw it out, just get rid of it and you get all new stuff when you go there. So easy and don't worry about it, it'll all be fine. It is not. Excuse me. There's a lot of emotion attached to those things in those houses.
And people, you know my wife really well. You must have been hanging out with her because that's her thing, is just throw that out.
Well, I'm a little bit like Jennifer in that respect. I make decisions relatively quickly, and material things don't hold for me the value that they did 40 years ago or 30, 40 years ago. I've learned that those are just material things. They can be replaced. It's the relationships that can't be replaced. But having said that, we all need some empathy. And there's ways and methods you can teach a person how to declutter, and you can help them through the process. One fun way is to make 3 piles. One is the I am not getting rid of pile. One is the I'll think about it pile. And the other one is it's got to go pile. But then that pile that says it's not going anywhere, it might get really big and nothing may end up in the other two piles. And that'll help you know what kind of client you're working with and where their level of comfort is for moving. But there's so many opportunities for you to go above and beyond and do an excellent job with a person that's ready to move out of their house. So we can get into some deeper parts of that. But my first thing is to have empathy and understanding and try to put yourself in that position and know how long your clients have lived there and what their emotional trigger points are for that house. Because that will result in whether they're out on time or not.
Yeah. Well, I think also, we talk a lot about having checklists for your business, right? So working with sellers, working with buyers. Here's everything I need to do to get that house listed, all the different things. But what about, and I've seen a lot of agents have offered, buyer's guides, seller's guides, but I think also having that checklist for your client and saying, okay, here's the timeline. Let's, being able to sit down with your client and help them devise a plan for how they're going to pack, how they're going to move, what's the timeline look like? That's the biggest thing. I know, in the last few years, I've moved about 3 times just through separation, etc. And yeah, I was a little slow. I didn't pack early enough, or I didn't pack enough early. At the last minute, it's just trying to pack so much. And I think that is, there's so much going on in your mind. And I know for my recent move was putting in a lot of work beforehand, getting the new place early, trying to do some work on it, having had a lot of this stuff packed, but then during that week, your focus goes off. And so to have somebody there that can tell me, okay, you got to do this, make sure you get this packed. As Lynn said, it's that empathy and understanding that they have a lot of stresses. So they may need a little bit of help. And that's where you come in as an agent, is that ability to sit down and say, let's look at the plan. Let me help you out. I got a great checklist here. I'm not saying you're there helping them pack. If you need to be, you need to be. But for the most part, you don't want to be there packing, but you want to help them create that plan. And as Lynn said, you're going to find out what kind of client they are. And, you have to look at the state of the house. Yeah. There's a lot of things that go into it, but I think, Lynn, basically helping them sit down and let's look at a plan because, hey, you're going to have to change address.
Those are all, there's a lot of levels of that.
There's a whole lot of stuff like the post office, the banks, the credit cards,
Nexus.
All that stuff, driver's license, Nexus. You name it.
Right? There's a lot of things to consider, but first, let's say you've got a closing date and you know when that is and your client knows when that is. There's always, what do they need? What supplies do they need to pack? Do they need clothing closets? And how many do they need? Do they need large, medium, small boxes? How many do they need? The bubble wrap, the things that go inside of it. And there are services, be them, there is a cost obviously involved. There are companies that will come in and professionally pack for someone. But there's a lot of little tips you can do. Color code the boxes. You can color code everything and write on every box what is exactly in there. So it can be a 1, 2, or 3 box, meaning it's the first box to get unpacked. The second box is to get unpacked. The third, I don't care if it sits in the garage for a week box, right? And you color code things and you can leave some stuff in the garage or away or even in a storage locker, because it just gets in your way and clutters. So you prioritize what goes in your new place first and what that looks like, and make sure everything is very organized on the box. So when these movers are just firing in boxes, you can say, nope, box number 3's in the garage. Box number here goes in this room, because you'll be a traffic director on day of moving. And I think you need to understand this for your client and help them get that organized. There are, as I said, there are companies that will help you do this. Some people are experiencing a multiple move. Myself, I moved to one location, lived in there for a while, sold our house, bought another house, renovating the other house. So there was 2 moves plus a move to a storage locker all involved. So I'm pretty good at it. You need to be organized, and you need to say to your client, look, maybe we put this in a pod, or maybe we put this in a storage locker, and you only rent it for a couple of months, but it'll save you becoming overwhelmed with all of these boxes that end up in your house, and you can have a much more organized move. I think it warrants that. And the other thing that Eric just mentioned, which is critical, sometimes the lawyers will handle this for you or for your client, utilities. Making sure you've canceled all your utilities and you've opened all your utilities where you're going. Driver's license, your health cards. I just said Nexus cards because I just changed my address on my Nexus cards. If those of you that have that service, you need to change it. And with your doctors, everything has to get changed. And I would always recommend you do a mail forwarding for at least 12 months. And that's a catch-all for things that arrive and you don't have. But just so many things you can think about, lay this out in a plan for your clients, and it won't be so scary. They'll have a plan. Plans are good. We've talked about this a lot of times.
Yeah, and having the plans, and you know, one way that you can step up your business. So, you know, I always say, you know, do we want to be the same as everybody else, or do you want to be that one step above? And so, you know, things where I've seen a number of clients, agents, that will offer so many moving boxes. So they will have, they'll offer moving boxes or bins. I know some have trailers or trucks and they'll lend that for the move. I mean, these are little things that go above and beyond. You know, we hear a lot where people will either, they do staging themselves, they hire a stager for consultation. That's all well and good, you know, and trust me, those are great things to do before the sale. But we're talking about post-sale. And so this is, okay, it's closed. Now we got, or we've signed and we've got to get everything ready. And so what can you provide? Think about what can you provide to your client that goes above and beyond what the average agent does. And to be honest, the average agent, once that closed, well, they've done. Signed, they're done. They're transactional.
Their mind is done.
The average agent is transactional, so they're not there. So, it doesn't take a lot to, really stand out. And so looking at what services can you provide, right down to having a list. So if you're in a particular city and having a list, here's all the numbers you got to call at the city. So here's all the numbers for the different utility companies. Here's, all those different things. Here's where the nearest, service center is for driver's licenses and health cards, et cetera. All of that information you can provide in a great sheet and just say, here's when you should be looking to do these things, right? Giving them a timeline. So if that's all you did, you've gone a step above what the normal agent is doing. And then all these other services, whether it's the moving boxes, whether it's having a moving company that you can highly recommend, there's all those things. I believe also in when somebody's moving, it is stressful. I've talked a lot, Lynn, about people giving, I call it, and I remember having this discussion like back over 10, 12 years ago with people. We talked about creating these special boxes for the day of move and say, give it to them 1 or 2 days before. Say, put it in your front seat. Do not pack it with the rest of them. This is going to have toilet paper, paper towels,
documents.
All the
documents.
Well, I'm just thinking of when they move in. Forget the documents so much. It's when they move in. Hey, they didn't clean it the way it should have been cleaned. So we got some cleaning supplies. We got toilet paper. Someone's got to rush. Where's the toilet paper? Here it is. We already have it. Coupons for pizza, whatever it is. If your friends are helping you move, like we've taken care of it. I know you're moving to that location. Here's a pizza spot right near you for you to try out. So it's that little thing, that thinking that says, I understand, stressful, day of the move, you're not thinking clearly. There's so many things going through your mind. Here's a box to take care of that.
I think that's a great idea. And I'm reminded that I am the owner of 2 very large cats. And moving a pet is even more stressful, because you have to take into consideration where are they and what are they feeling on the day that all their belongings are leaving the house, the number of people that are running around the house picking up stuff, and then at the other end when it gets packed. So there's a lot to think about there as well, the care and the acclimation of a pet out
Oh,
of the
yeah.
house and into the house. It's very, very stressful on them. Done this a few times. Sometimes we choose to put them in a boarding kennel for a couple of days. That's equally as stressful. So there are some tips and tricks that are available to help pets de-stress through that move, and how to keep them happy and safe and secure while the move is happening, because Lord forbid you leave a door open and the pet's gone.
Yeah.
And it has happened to people. So those are things. I like the idea of having coupons for local areas. And with the new AI technology that we have and is available to you, that's a pretty darn easy question to ask. You can ask your AI assistant for all of the best different types of foods in that very area and where they might go to get that, and give them a list of those things so that that day they're not, they're not fumbling around looking for something to eat or something to be brought to their house. A lot of agents do take a food of some sort on closing day or on that moving date. We've got agents that don't do that. We've got agents that do that. I think that is best left to the type of person your client is.
Yeah.
But you definitely need to be visiting there or staying in touch and be a resource for them on the day if something goes wrong, i.e. the moving truck arrives at their new home and the sellers aren't out of the house.
Yeah.
What do we do, right? You can certainly offer to have a cleaning company come in to the new house.
Yeah.
Maybe the sellers have already cleaned it, as was the case in the house that I just left. We had our professional lady come in and clean the house. I knew the new owners were going to do that anyway, but it was certainly a lot less than they had to do. I also made sure landscaping lawn cutting day was a Tuesday. Their move-in day was a Tuesday. I asked my landscapers to come the day before to make sure all the gardens and all the grass was just perfect when they moved in. There is nothing nicer for a buyer when they go to their new home to find everything in beautiful condition. It sets the tone for the rest of their time in that house, quite frankly. So think about all these little things that you can do and where you could, everybody talks about a big closing gift. Well, maybe spend a little bit, 2 or 3 places where it would make a bigger difference or a bigger impact that has that lingering, long-lasting effect on them that day, so that they tell their friends what you did. Instead of buying them something impersonal that they're never going to use and they stick in a drawer, do something that you've heard they need.
Yeah. Yeah, giving them a gift that has your brand on it, that's great.
Not great.
So, and I like the idea of not just the new house, but also cleaning the one you're leaving.
That's right.
And so, again, this is about stresses. So I want you to think about if you were to move. So if you had to move next week and it came up all of a sudden, think about all the thoughts that be going through your head, all the things you have to do, and just start feeling that stress build up in you and go, how can I help relieve that stress in my clients? That's really what we're talking about here today. It's really about they have stress.
And if you have an opportunity. And
there's
I'm
a
sorry
great
to
opportunity.
interrupt you with that, but
it's an opportunity.
You have an opportunity
Yeah.
to shine and really help them.
Huge.
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 But you got to think, and you got to target that at what their needs are for their family.
Yep.
But it's a great opportunity to make yourself look extra good.
And the more that you can take that off, the more they're going to talk about, right? There's, I just think that, and as, again, just having gone through it, literally this, over the weekend, there was some family there helping out, and even that, like trying all the different people and managing, and did we get meals, etc. So, being able to, and especially when you go to an area where you're a little bit unfamiliar, not sure exactly what's around. So you having done a little bit of research and providing that list, that goes a long way to helping those clients just relax a little bit. Here's the closest, by the way, if this isn't working, that isn't working, we'll talk about appliances and stuff in a moment, but those little fix-ups. So where's the nearest hardware stores?
Yep.
Right? That got damaged, you got to go get a new one. Well, where do I go? Where's the closest place? So it's just, again, little things. It's not huge, but it's the little things that do matter.
And there's just a thought as well, that closing date, maybe instead of going over and getting in the way on that moving date, maybe it's just as simple as saying, here's my number. If you need anything today, please give me a call and I'll help you get it sorted. I mean, I don't know why everybody's so afraid of that call, because they think that they're responsible if something goes wrong. You're not responsible if something went wrong. But boy, if you're there to help them fix what went wrong, that'll go a long way in the relationship. It really
Huge.
will. So sometimes there's a disappointment when people get in their new house because it doesn't look quite the same as it did when it was staged and all those pretty things were up on the wall. It may not look the same. They may not feel the same. So really important that those extra things are done so that they just have the most positive experience they can when they move into that house that day, when their moving truck is there to put their stuff in. So I agree with all of the things you're saying. I think there's a way to make a checklist for yourself and run down those things and actually put that into play for you. I'd like to jump into a little bit of another way to think about this as well, but
just before
he
we
wants me to wait.
No, just before we go on there, I wholeheartedly agree where you want to take it. No, like you said, this is really a place for them to shine.
Big opportunity. Opportunity
really
comes dressed up as hard work, folks.
Huge.
But it's a big opportunity to set yourself way apart from everybody else and to actually have the knowledge that they need. You can find out all this stuff for them, where they can get it, what they should have, and maybe your closing gift is a bunch of cardboard boxes 4 weeks in advance of moving date so that they are prepared to pack. Anybody pack a kitchen lately? It takes a lot of boxes.
Oh, it does. Or even having food delivered, whatever, right?
Anything.
But I do want to address
All of it.
something real quick. You know, I mentioned about the appliances. You mentioned about calling. I've always said my ideal post-closing program would be 1 day after, 1 week after, 1 month after, 3 months, 6 months, and a year in terms of follow-up. And that is, each one has its own opportunity. As Lynn said, things are busy on moving day. So, you know, one thing, and I know a lot of people know this, but you got to have reasons for suggesting it, but try not ever to close on a Friday or do that move. You know, always have it if you can.
Christmas.
Or
So
just
the lawyer is
earlier.
available to close
Thank
the deal.
you. So
I
the-
said that with my outside.
So you know, if there is a problem, so the idea is that, you know, they go in, number one, moving companies are always busy, the middle of the month and the end of the month.
Yep.
I used to work for a real estate lawyer. We would do 250 to 400 transactions a month. And I could look at that calendar and I'd see all these people piled up at the end, the last day of the month. And I get it. Sometimes your clients cannot afford to take days off during the week. They have to do it on a Friday or a Saturday. I get that. I understand that. But if you can, you want to encourage them, because if they move in, if, for example, things that were supposed to have been left were taken away, something is obviously broken, an appliance, etc. If you move in on a Friday night, the lawyer's gone, they're gone for the weekend, you can't get anybody till
You may
Monday.
not be moving in on Friday night.
Well, you may not
You may
be.
be stuck at a hotel.
But here's the thing is that when you do it early, so if something is broken, you can address the lawyer the next day. But being able to, as Lynn said, make yourself available for that phone call. You'll just say, not a problem, let me contact the lawyer, we'll get this dealt with. You're taking it off of their hands.
Yeah.
And so that is a great way to just, again, level of service and talk about here's why we may want to consider doing this. And for me, it's like they're busy, but the day after, I want you to think about this. Now I can call and say, how did the move go? Was everything there what you expected? You know, you can check to see if they've checked the appliances. Is everything working? That's why, and then a week later, because they may not have tested everything.
Oh, yeah.
So now a week later, I can follow up. How are things settling in? You know, between a week and a month, maybe you want to throw them a housewarming party, whatever, but I want to have that post-care to show that I'm not just a transactional agent.
Yeah.
But I just think having that plan there as well after that, it just ensures that, like you said, if
100%.
something comes up, we will take that off. I'm going to talk to the lawyer. Let me take that stress away from you. But now,
seriously, don't close on a Friday. Seriously, don't.
try not to.
Try not to, because sometimes things go wrong. Even the most well-planned things can sometimes go wrong. and you don't want to not have your clients in their home on the day they expect to be in. Also, you should educate them as to when they can come in. A lot of times people think they can move in at noon on their closing date. That's not always the case. So I encourage you and them to speak to their lawyer about the expectations of moving in and that day, because that's another big red flag that happens, and money does not always get transferred, or land title doesn't always get transferred. After 5 o'clock, there can be some difficulty in it. So again, it's just about thinking about the problems that, I hate to say it, but it's looking for the disaster before it happens to make sure you've got every aspect of it in your mind, what you do if that does happen. And checking in later on the pets, checking in later on the kids, seeing how everybody's transitioning, seeing what's happened. And don't feel if something's gone wrong with that you own it. You don't own it.
No.
You don't own it, but you're there to help them and support them and guide them through the process if that does happen. That's how you build really strong relationships, by not running away and hiding on closing day and not coming back for 2 years until you see somebody else's sign on the lawn. We're trying to give you some tips here to become their client for life and to become their family and friends' clients for life and helping them. It's a big deal for people, this.
It is. And now, we're talking about moving today. And so, not only is it stressful for clients when they move, but also let's talk about the other aspect. I know Lynn wants to talk about this, and that is when agents are doing a move, or they're doing renovations, and they're doing the build, especially on the builds. That's huge when you're doing those new builds. So I don't
Take it away?
Yeah, take it away. You've been waiting on this.
I have several agents who are builders and legit builders, and they build their own house or they build another house, a project house. There's always things that happen that you can't anticipate. I am in the process now of doing a very big renovation on a house. And so timelines never work out the way they think you're going to. I'm very lucky. My husband is now retired, and this is now his new project. And as he said to me the other day, Lynn, this isn't working very well because I can't even call in sick because he's stuck with it. But that's allowed me to still be able to do my work. When a realtor is involved and it's your house and you're doing it, please don't lose sight of your day job, your business. And this is what I see all the time. It takes so long, and there's so many aspects of it, that their business really suffers over the course of that 6 months or 1 year or longer that it takes to finish this house. So what they gain in the one hand, they lose on the other, and sometimes it's not recoverable. Sometimes the relationships that they lose during that time is not recoverable. So if you're going to do it, that's great. But again, you better have a plan and a system in place on how you're going to manage the time that it's going to take you away from your job. And I hear it all the time. Oops, threw my pen away. I hear it all the time, is that I didn't think it was going to take that long, or I didn't realize it was going to be that difficult. But it is, and it does take time.
And I know I've talked to one of the agents from one of your offices, and we were on a call, and he talked about going through that renovation and getting caught up. And so really in that situation, my advice is to set some hours, office hours. It's kind of like think of it as having a brick and mortar, and I need to be there for a certain time frame to do that part of the business. And I get there will always be decisions to be made, but you could schedule certain breaks where you can check in. But otherwise, this is what I have to do. And I think it is very important that you do treat it like a business. I get it that you probably got into this business because you wanted the freedom and flexibility. But the simple fact is that, yes, there is freedom, there is flexibility, but it is all about making sure that you do treat it like a business. And having sort of set hours allows you to avoid that.
Well, it avoids you not having any business when your house is finished and you've let your clients go and you've let relationships drop. So it's a big, I know everybody loves to do it. I love to do it. I do. But it's a big time drain. It's a time drain on the things that you really should be doing. So to Eric's point, block out some time to at least manage the things that are non-negotiable and have to get done. and maybe try to get some help in the actual project management of the project you're doing.
Yeah.
So you have a backup and you don't lose all your real estate business because you're building a house.
Yep.
It's challenging.
Well, it is. And it's interesting, if you're one of those realtors that are in that position where you do build or you do a lot of flips, where you're involved in a lot of major renovations, you'll understand the stresses that it takes, that it puts upon you.
Mm-hmm.
And so then take that and empathize with somebody who is not an expert like yourself and is going through this same stuff. And so that's what we want to get across in today's episode is, again, I need to address needs, wants, and help solve problems. So think about the problems your clients are facing when they go through these moves. When they go through their big move, maybe they haven't done it in a while. There's, not everybody's like Lynn, 23 houses in 20 years. There's some people, it's,
Sounds
2
terrible.
houses in 20 years.
Yeah,
So
well,
they're not used to it. So it's been a long time for them. And so it's when you can step up and provide resources and provide help and services that take the worry away, I mean, you've got a client for life. You really do. And when they talk to their friends and their friends are all stressed out and they're like, are you kidding? Like Ted or Susan, they took care of all of that for me. I didn't have to worry about that. And they're like, what? Yeah. So next thing you know, they're bragging about you. And so this is one great way to elevate your business, to get yourself, look at what level of service do I want to provide. And so, there's different layers. There's different things you can add in. So just determine how much you want to do. Not all of it has to cost money, though, right, Lynn?
No, actually, you're
Checklist costs nothing.
Checklist costs nothing. Leveraging the relationships you have with trades, leveraging the relationship you have with movers and pet care and all these things that you already have. All you're doing is leveraging that information you have and making sure it gets in the hands of your clients so that everybody can kind of wrap their arms around them and help them make it a smooth move. You should have an electrician, a plumber, all the tradespeople on your speed dial to have relationships. I always tell my agents to make relationships with our lawyers and our mortgage lenders, but this is another part of it as well. Have good relationships with trades or a handyman. Junk removal person is huge so that you can make the phone call.
Sorry, I'll let you clear your throat.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know what, I've seen the experience of people dealing with hoarders, for example, and that they just can't get rid of anything. The other thing is, having that junk removal or there are companies out there, especially with seniors, you'll find that a lot of them have carried this stuff through their life, mementos, etc. They don't want to give a lot of things up. And so there are people that are trained, that is their business, to help people give up those things that need to be, gone because they're downsizing.
Yeah.
So you got to look at, are they upsizing, downsizing? If they're downsizing, they're going from, say, 2,000 square feet to 900 square feet. I mean, that's a huge change. So what's going to give up? So as Lynn said, it's just having those professionals in your database that you can reach out to and talk to and refer. And, that's all it takes is because somebody might reach out to one of these people prior to talking to an agent saying, I know I need to declutter. I know I need to get that roof fixed before I, try and sell it. So they can be a good referral source back to you. So make sure you have that list and network with them on a regular basis. But the biggest thing is just anticipating, as Lynn said, almost like what's the worst case scenario and having an answer for all of it, or at least having somebody, having a person that you can bring in when you need to.
Yeah, very important.
Any last words on this topic?
Just again, it comes down to just listen to the client's needs, listen to what they need, know them well, know where they're moving, what their anticipations are, and then just help them manage the expectations and use your resources to leverage for them what they need, and be the straw that stirs the drink.
Yep.
Be the person that gets everything moving for them. You know where to find all these people. You deal with them all the time. Just take that and help your clients with that. But again, it's just a matter of being aware of what's going on.
Yeah, so just final words for myself is just determine what level of service you want to provide. Do you want to be like a Ritz-Carlton level? Maybe it's a Westin, or maybe it's the Quality Inn, or it's that motel down the street. What level of service do you want to provide? Empathize. Empathize with the client, anticipate what stresses are there, and then deliver on those services. Okay, yes. And that will take, again, like we said, the average agent is transactional. So you going above and beyond, doing these extra things, that sets you apart. And then the more higher you go, the more things you offer, the higher the level of service you will provide, and the more your clients will talk about you, especially when they're comparing their move versus their friends, and you'll become the go-to person. So hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please like, subscribe, follow us. We'd love to hear your comments. We so appreciate you tuning in each and every week. And we will see you next week on the Business of Real Estate podcast with Lynn Hoffmann and Eric Johnson.